Welcome inside another edition of Mic'd Up here on Pittsburgh Sports Live, Pittsburgh Sports Now, and all throughout the Now family of networks. Mic'd Up is, of course, presented by Martin Lawn Services. You can contact Doug Martin for all your lawn care needs at 412-849-5894. And this show is going to be pretty heavy baseball. The Pirates back in action tonight. The Pirates in some interesting games recently off their little losing skid there and losing 2-1 on Father's Day to the Cleveland Indians. Derrick Shelton getting booed off the decision to take out JT Brubaker. A stud, pitching well, 9 Ks. They didn't win the game. Some fans wanted him to linger. The offense didn't pick it up anyway, so it didn't matter. But our thoughts on Derrick Shelton being booed because this season hasn't been a good one, but no one really expected it to be a good one. So how much do you hold it against him? The future of Bryan Reynolds, a stud this year, an all-star this year, showing that he is more of 2 years ago than last year, picking up from where he left off in 2019, not 2020. Is he part of the future with Key Brian Hayes, or could he bring tons back in value? Because obviously they need a lot coming back, and the future of this team with potential decision for that first round pick. Al Leiter's little kid there in action last night at Vanderbilt as Leiter threw up 15 Ks in that outing in 8 innings, only allowing 1. Is he the decision, or is somebody else possibly the decision for the Pirates, with some rumors about them dipping into high school? Mike Vukovic and Mike Osti to start things off. Mike, first off, we didn't talk yesterday. We took a Father's Day hiatus, so happy Father's Day to you there, belated. Hope you had a great day over the weekend. I'm assuming you had a good one there with your kids on Father's Day.
Yeah, we actually Doug Martin. This is no comp job, but he completed our deck. So we
saw the picture.
We had our family over. We ate it there and hung out on the deck, which is going to be in the very near future when it's not wet outside. I'm going to start doing my appearances here out on the deck in the morning with my coffee. That's going to be my morning hangout. It's great, but it was a great weekend.
Awesome. Happy you had a great one as well. I had a great one with family. My grandfather came over to see our house, so that was cool as well. But to dive right in here, Derrick Shelton here in the Boo Birds, for the fans that were there. Brubaker, who has been one of the better pitchers this year, to say the least, an ace earlier in the year, a Cy Young candidate earlier in the year with how well he was pitching, dipped back down to earth for a while, but still certainly the best pitcher on this Pirates team all year, as he went a solid about 7 innings there, 9 strikeouts. They lose 2-1 to Cleveland, so the offense wasn't there. But, Mike, aside from just taking out Brubaker early, because you can't even say that's early, that's how pitchers have been handled most of the season. He did have 75 pitches. It was a solid outing for him, to say the least, but the offense didn't help him. But thoughts on Derrick Shelton being booed? Because, this season's bad, and you can question some decisions for Derrick Shelton. He's not been perfect. But everybody and their brother entering this season thought this team would lose 100 games, would be really, really bad, despite the hot start. They are bad. They're dealing with losing streaks. They're not a good team this year. It's beginning of this rebuilding process. So how much blame is it really fair to hold on Derrick Shelton, and does he deserve boo birds when I think anything aside from losing 95 games would have been an utter miracle based on what the expectations initially were?
I actually like the fact that the Pirate fans booed him. Not that I agree with it, but I like it in the sense that it shows that they are actually there to watch the game. They're paying attention. They're into the game, and they're not just there for the best ballpark in baseball and food and everything else. Right. They're into it, which you don't want your fans to just be there for everything, but what they're supposed to be there watching. So that's a good thing. As far as, and I actually think he deserved it in the sense that Derrick Shelton, I think, there are no expectations for this team yet.
Right.
However, he's a young manager, and I think one of the things he hasn't mastered yet, I don't think you ever master it, but one of the things he struggles with right now is, I know this is something you talked about a lot before the season, is when to pull a pitcher. He doesn't seem to have a really good sense with that yet. He seems to be very conservative, and
he is. He leans that way.
Yes, he's very and I'm okay with that. Maybe the first month of the season, maybe 2 months into the season.
Right.
But we're into June now. We're going to July here. Pitchers shouldn't be pulled after 70 some pitches.
You're not preserving him for a playoff run.
Right. There's just no purpose to it.
Right.
And this isn't with Brubaker, it wasn't the first time he's done that. I was just sitting here. I'm trying to think, because there were two other starts that right before that he did the same exact thing. Pitchers are in a groove. And I remember it was a case where he pulled the pitcher,
right,
and then the next inning, or I forget the circumstances, but he's developed a track record now of doing this. And I also think that he's not a veteran manager, so people got to have a little bit of slack with him as far as him learning the time. Maybe his bench coach needs to help him out with that as far as suggestions or whatever. But I think it was justified, and it's something that Shelton, the rest of the season, he just has to start having a better feel for what's going on out there. And right now he's, in certain situations, he's not doing that.
Yeah. And you could make an argument that this is an overlying problem in all of baseball, which is kind of what I was touching on during the season, that a lot of these managers, whether they're veteran, whether they're young, whether they're rookie managers, no matter the success of the team or their resumes, they are pulling pitchers earlier than ever before. We saw earlier in the season, there have been pitchers that are throwing no-hitters through 6, and they're getting the hook because either they're young or they're the face of the franchise, or they feel like their arm's going to fall off. I don't know what's going on. That never would have been done years ago. So it is an overlying overall problem, but I do feel that despite what's going on in baseball, you don't have to keep up with the Joneses just to keep up. If your team is not going to playoffs, you know it's over. These are young pitchers. It's about the future, especially with Brubaker and, say, Tyler Anderson, a couple guys that have clearly had quality starts this year beyond the 6th on a consistent basis. It would not have been the end of the world to let him linger one more inning. And then if he clearly is fatigued or allowing the bases loaded, then you hook him. And if his ERA, increases a little bit because of that, doesn't matter. He's not looking for any record-setting statistical performance. He's not going to win the Cy Young Award this year. The All-Star decisions have already been out there. If he gets it, then he gets it. If he doesn't, oh well. I mean, it's not about this year for this team. You're looking for the future. His arm is not going to fall off. I promise everyone his arm is not going to fall off. So that's very, very annoying, but it's a baseball decision. But your point about Pirate fans caring, that's something that hasn't been touched on as well. That is good. So that does show the Pirate fans are there. They want to see a kid play. They want to see individual performances, even if they know the season doesn't matter. They're not there to just have a hot dog and have their kids at the ball game, even on Father's Day. So they're upset if they lose their stud through 6 and some. They want him to go deeper. That's nice for the fan base. It shows you that whenever they start winning again, it could be a legit fan base. But Derrick Shelton doesn't deserve any blame for this year. Is he the guy that I think is going to be there when they win? Is he the guy that I love? Is he the guy that screams to me a winning manager and screams personality and I would run through a wall for him? No, none of that's true. He could be a Jim Tracy who's gone in a year or two. But regardless of how you feel about him, because I'm not excited about him, you can't blame him for this year. Tony La Russa, you and I, him, anybody else out there, Joe Madden would be losing with this Pirates team. I'm not convinced anybody would be turning lightning in a bottle and win 90 games with this group. I don't care who the manager is. Casey Stengel from the grave wouldn't get it done with this group. So that's not fair for in terms of how Derrick Shelton is handled by some fans, being booed there. Maybe it's for just the decision. Maybe it's overall, but even how he's made fun of on Twitter.
It's probably also,
I don't know if that's fair.
That's a point, Mike, too, that it's probably that exact situation, but it's also, let's face it, as a percentage, Pirates aren't selling games out. I would say half of a good portion of the fans that are there are diehard fans. They're sick of the losing.
I'm sure.
They're also,
Right.
yeah, they might be pointed in on that exact situation, but it's also the Pirates are in a streak here of a long losing streak over the last month. So it's probably a combination. And the other thing is, when you boo a man, when you're, it's one thing to get on a manager for this situation, but I don't agree with when you bring in a guy for a lefty, righty.
Yeah.
That's up to the individual pitcher. That's a matchup that you're zeroing in and thinking we have the advantage. This decision to pull a pitcher after 70 pitches is just an overall, I think he's done decision by Shelton.
Yeah, it seems like Shelton especially, but certainly Major League Baseball, 80 pitches is a freakout session.
Right.
So that it's like a mental wall, and that's really been the case. I actually would love to pull this data maybe for our next show, how many pitchers, if at all, anyone got over 80 pitches this season, because I really haven't seen it, or how often. 85 really being that ceiling. No one's thrown up 100. So he has that wall. And maybe it's because he knows this year's not about winning. Maybe he's getting something from the management saying nobody goes over 85 because we're not going to win this year. Preserve them. I better not. He could really, I mean, to be fair, he could have somebody telling him, Charrington even, if I see this pitcher go over 85 innings, it's your butt. So I'm going to yell at you. So maybe he's dealing with that. We don't know, but he, of course, is going to get the boo birds, and the decision sucked in my eyes, but who knows where he's hearing it from. Moving on, though, sticking with the Pirates here, Bryan Reynolds has been great this year. And I don't just mean great by being the best player on this Pirate team who's really, really bad. I mean, he's been a legit great hitter in all of Major League Baseball. At one point, leading the league in hits. He has been really, really good. I argue underrated now. He's not necessarily what he was 2 years ago, where it was literally a double every game when he actually was setting a rookie record, but he has been really good. He has been consistent. He has by far been a player that any good team would love to have, which brings up the conversation because these teams are now really impressed by him. He plays in the infield. He can hit. He can field. He has it all, and his age still is very friendly. Do you trade him, since he would definitely be coveted, get tons of value back for him, because he could be that player that brings value back that Josh Bell and others did not, because their value was not high? Bryan Reynolds' value is very, very high right now. Or do you keep him and make him the Robin to keep Brian Hayes' Batman, make him part of the building block of the future, and build around him along with Hayes? Yeah, it's great Reynolds is playing so well, but has he played so well that he has to be out of Pittsburgh because of the value? Or now he's played so well that he needs to be part of the future of this franchise?
My opinion on this has changed from the beginning of the year. And I know everyone wanted to see whether or not last year's sophomore slump was just that.
He was bad last year.
Or is he a legit player? And I think he's proving that he's a legit player. And I think the Pirates have to keep him. You just can't. He's 26 years old. Outfield isn't a strength in their organization. It's not as though they have a ton of outfielders. He's the only legit outfielder they have.
Right.
He's a legit all-star. Him and Adam Frazier, despite the Pirates being a bad third worst team in baseball, they have legitimate cases to make the all-star team. He's a guy you build.
Oh yeah.
He's a switch hitter, plays great defense. He's still 26 years old.
You can fit him all over the diamond, really.
Yeah,
you can play him pretty much outfield, second base if you have to. I mean, he can go pretty much anywhere.
I don't trade him.
Playing mostly at center, of course.
Unless somebody offers you some insane package that includes, a top of the rotation starter that's already in the major leagues, and nobody's going to do that. Any offers that Charrington's going to get are going to be for minor league heavy prospects, and I just don't take it. With having him, you now have two guys that you could put at the top of the order, and Nick Gonzalez, their number one pick. I keep harping on him, but he's a guy that will be here soon. and he will be a top of the liner hitter. That means you have, you potentially have your top three right there: Nick Gonzalez, Hayes, and Bryan Reynolds. That's how you build. You don't build by trading away 20-some-year-old players. The difference between him and Adam Frazier, I would trade Adam Frazier.
Yeah, because that was a conversation a couple of weeks ago that was brought up actually on the national broadcast. He's a little older, though.
He's going to be 30 years old. He's having a career year. Is he a nice player? Yes. Is he going to have this type of season again in his career? I don't know. He could. He's second in the league right now in hits.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. Who would have taken that bet, honestly?
Yeah, right. I would take advantage of this if I was Sherrington, but I wouldn't give him away. White Sox and Yankees are two teams that are reportedly have a need for somebody like him. If they're willing to pay what we want or what the Pirates want, then I do it. If not, I'm very content. He's only making $4.1 million this year. Bring him back next year. Maybe somebody will pay you something in the offseason. I don't give him away, but I would be looking to trade him. Reynolds is a building block. I think you want to talk about the Pirate fans getting mad, being pissed.
Yeah, if he's
trade Reynolds and Frazier in the offseason, you will see Pirate fans be upset, and I think justifiably if they trade both those guys.
I think you definitely trade Adam Frazier because of the age, because at least with Reynolds, there's multiple seasons of this quality of work, and there's a lot to show, even with the hype coming into baseball and just around the team. He appears like a leader, a lot more to show that Bryan Reynolds is going to keep doing this. Not the case for Adam Frazier, despite the great year he's having. I'd trade Adam Frazier, get the value for Adam Frazier. It'll be interesting if Ben Cherington feels pressure to trade Adam Frazier because they got to get value for someone this year, or if the value and the trade pieces are not there, he would be willing to do it in the offseason or would be willing to do it some other time. I think Adam Frazier is going to go at this deadline. There are some teams, the Yankees, feel tons of pressure to squeak in there. They've admitted they are not going to sell, even though this year's not been great for them. So I would not be shocked. The Pirates and Yankees do a lot of business over the years. Cherington knows them well, of course, from his previous time in the division. Wouldn't be shocked if Adam Frazier's gone. I think he will be gone. I think he should be gone. Bryan Reynolds, though, no. I think Bryan Reynolds has to be here for the future because of his age, because of what he's done. And if not Bryan Reynolds, then there's nobody else with Hayes except for maybe a couple pitchers. I think the one positive from this year, while everyone's being down and they're really, really, really a bad team, is entering the season, you had to have Hayes continue his progression. That hasn't fully been able to happen because of his injury, but he has played well in there, of course. You had to establish maybe one pitcher to have some hope for something. They've done that. And you hopefully wanted to establish Reynolds or somebody else to be there for the future. Reynolds has the age, has the pedigree, and he's established himself as the guy. So nobody would have dreamed of trading him 2 years ago. Last year was bad, but I think he definitely got to be part of the future now. He probably would bring more value back than Frazier, and Frazier may not bring what Pirate fans want because it's only 1 year of quality play. But, yeah, if you trade Reynolds, that's going to scream quitting on the rebuild. It's one thing to trade someone when they're 30 years old. It's one thing to trade someone, not pay them the second contract. It's one thing to quit the window too early that Pirate fans scream about the last time they were winners. But 26 years old after an all-star season when he's had 2 of the last 3 years, if you trade him then when he's not getting paid that much, it's almost like, what's the point of playing well on the team?
I don't know that it's quitting on the rebuild. I think the Pirate fans would look at it as a constant rebuild.
Sure. And that's not fair to Cherington, I guess, because he's only been here now.
Yeah, it's like there's certain guys that fall into that category. And I'll tell you what, 2 other guys that I wouldn't trade just because I think one guy I would have as part of a future is JT Brubaker.
Oh, yeah, that's the pitcher I was meaning.
Yeah, the Pirates have –
I would maybe trade Anderson, but not Brubaker.
Yes, exactly. Brubaker is a guy that actually they developed, which is rarity.
Right.
And he's young enough. You need 5 starters. You cannot – other guys, Tyler Anderson.
Brubaker just has the it factor to me. It's hard to explain it.
Who's that?
Brubaker has
Yes,
the
yes.
it factor to me. It's hard to explain. He has the stuff. He's pitched well, but I'm not saying he's going to the Hall of Fame or going to be an ace, but he screams that he can be a pitcher on a good team and that he wants the ball.
Yes, exactly. And the other guy that I wouldn't trade just because for two reasons. Number one, I don't think in any situation you will get great value for him. And he just seems to be like a leader of the team is Stallings.
Okay.
Catcher is a hard position to try to get quality at. He's older.
That's why I would probably trade him. He is older. Yeah.
But I don't think a team's going to overpay for him. Now, if I'm wrong and somebody would, then maybe I would. But I wouldn't be looking to move because I hear people say take advantage of his career year and stuff like that. Actually, he's another guy that is putting up all-star like numbers.
He was good last year, though. No one gives him credit. He was the only one. He actually was good last year. Yeah. Now, honestly,
that I would. And I bet you he's a great. I haven't been in the locker room this year, so I don't know.
Right.
It screams of a guy that is a player that everyone on the team loves. A locker room leader. He looks quiet, but I bet you he's a leader in all ways. He's a guy that I would very, very hesitant to move unless somebody completely overpays for him. He's a good guy, and I bet you the pitchers love him.
It's hard to also say this, too, for a team so bad, but it does feel like he's the heart and soul of the team.
Yeah.
It really, really does. Just looking in the clubhouse, it does appear like he's a leader. You could argue he's a major reason why we're seeing Tyler Anderson, Brubaker, and several other pitchers even Yahari went in there, have solid seasons. It's very rare to have pitchers have all-star years, have a couple hitters have all-star years, and have a future face of the franchise play well and in there, and be so bad. So you got to give Jacob Stallings credit for what these pitchers are doing, even though this team isn't winning. The pitchers are not to blame based on this year, and I think most people thought the pitchers would be to blame. I love Jacob Stallings. I think he's really, really underrated. However, I would move him if you get value just because of his age. I do believe, as well as even though he was good last year, I think the odds of him doing this in the future, at least as a hitter, are lower than everybody else because of his age, because of his resume. I don't know if you keep getting it, but maybe your value would be so low in what comes back because teams would figure that he's not going to keep on doing this. Who knows? He's a catcher, though. That's not a deep position across Major League Baseball. I love the guy. I'm rooting for him, but I think he's going to get moved. I think Frazier's going to get moved. I don't think Reynolds will. Be interesting to see what Frazier and Stallings would bring back, though, if they are moved. Just quickly as we round things up, Mike, Jack Leiter pitched the gem last night, 15 Ks, allowed one again. Son of Al Leiter, as I mentioned at the top of the show, a veteran journeyman throughout Major League Baseball that had many, many great moments on some really, really good teams in his career. So he has the pedigree. Usually throughout baseball history, when somebody with a distinguished last name has success in college, in the minors, it leads to a lot moving forward. Gwen's kid, Ken Griffey Jr., Barry Bonds, of course. I mean, there's a whole litany. That's not exactly why. It's because he's a really, really good pitcher. Right. Is he the pick, or are the Pirates going to dip into replace the shortstop position, which is a position that they really don't have anything built for the future, and they're really concerned with how Newman's played? Or somewhere else, it always seems slam dunk for Jack Leiter. But there's been a recent conversation that might not be the pick for the Pirates based on some rumors. Do they have to go Leiter? Do they go somewhere else because the position might be more of a need? And boy, a polarizing reaction. You want to talk about some fans split. Whatever decision they make there may divide this fan base for the next decade.
See, it's very interesting in how it's changed. At the beginning of the season, it was Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter.
Or Leiter, right, yeah.
Yeah, one or the other, boom, boom, boom. And now, as we approach less than a month away from the MLB draft, every draft guru out there have the Pirates picking either a shortstop, a high school shortstop, which is drawing the ire. I noticed this a lot last night with a lot of members of the Pittsburgh media, in particular, because they were able to see Jack Leiter pitch, and he was dominant. I'll just say this: this is why Ben Sherrington makes the money. I don't know. you're able to see Jack Leiter's numbers before this outing last night on TV and maybe one other one. People are looking at box scores.
Yeah, every box score is good, but how do you know?
He looks great. This Marcelo Mayer, high school shortstop from California, Jordan Lauer. They could walk into our room and we wouldn't know who they are. So anyone in the media Pirates have scouts out there. That's why that's why they do what they do.
Yeah, and this year because of COVID, nobody who's covered this team, no matter how long, has seen any more of these guys. They're not traveling down there. They're not getting locker room access, really. This is a pandemic past year. So nobody knows.
No, and I'm not picking a guy. I'm not picking a guy because he's in high school. This is the argument that a lot of these people that are for Jack Leiter are using, is that they want a guy that's ready, that can come in and play. I want the best player. I want the best overall player. And if that means Jordan Lauer or this Marcelo Mayer doesn't get here for 3 years, okay.
Yeah, I mean, this team's not winning next year. Let's be honest, guys. This team's not winning next year. Yeah. This is a long rebuilding process. I will say I want the best overall player, but I wonder if going outside of Jack Leiter is because of the position of need of shortstop. Maybe they feel like Brubaker's emergence, if they do keep Anderson, maybe if Kuhl can turn around with his health, maybe they feel like they have more pitchers than they thought, and maybe they have more pitchers certainly than shortstop potential. I think you got to go best available when you're this bad. You need everything. You go best available 100%. I don't care what anything else is going on. However, maybe Jack Leiter is the best available. Who knows? I mean, maybe he's a future ace. Strasburg was doing the same type of thing, and he obviously became what he became. So
there's plenty of examples. You can go through the draft. The MLB draft is the hardest.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of negatives.
It's the hardest to try to project, just because you're evaluating guys that are in high school versus guys that are more advanced in college, and you're trying to project for 3, 4, 5, 6 years down the line.
Right.
Most of these teams that are bad, like the Pirates, like you said, they're not picking Jack Leiter. And Jack Leiter, you also got to take into effect, he's a pitcher, and how he threw 124 pitches last night. I know that you don't.
Derrick Shelton's pulling him.
Right. Oh yeah. There was no way he was pitching 124 pitches with Derrick Shelton last night. But by the time the Pirates are good, what's his arm going to be like?
Yeah, and how many contracts does he sign, and how many years of greatness do you get out of him? Because let me tell you, when he is 28, 29 years old, even if that's only 2 or 3 years into his career with the Pirates of success, very likely if he's really, really good, he's going to price himself out, or he's not. That very rarely does anyone get that second contract with the Pirates. You got to win in this window. So that's a great point too. We do have to wrap things up, but I do want to mention this is a major supporting fact about how you never know and how hard the Major League Baseball draft is. This is a trivia answer that no one would guess, because it's ridiculous to think of this case. Only one number 1 overall pick as we stand, and there might be a few that come up depending on when they get put in. Only one number 1 overall pick is in Cooperstown in the Hall of Fame. It is Ken Griffey Jr. Prior to Griffey in 2016, no first overall pick was in Cooperstown. Griffey was the first. That is insane.
Yeah.
Griffey's in, no one else first overall is in Cooperstown at that point. Griffey was the first. That's insane. That is just insane. Yeah. Griffey was the first in 2016.
Very difficult. So this is not an easy decision. Any decision that Ben Sherrington's going to make, this isn't Neil Huntington or taking somebody on the cheap. Ben Sherrington's a respected general manager. He didn't come here to do things on the cheap. Whoever he picks, he thinks that's the best player. Bottom line.
Right. So, and he's not going to just do it for something else. It got to be that, and that will be the case there. That'll do it for this edition of the show. Stick with all the sites, stick with us here, and subscribe to the channel, of course. The Pirates in the conversation, for better or worse. We'll see here moving forward. And boy, some of these decisions, whether it be at the deadline or the draft, that will divide this fan base for the next 10 years, no matter what goes on, as the Pirates continue to be polarizing, to say the very, very least. For Mike Vukovic, I'm Mike Osti. For all